Welcome back, my favorite game developers. In this video we are actually going to be melee attacking. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create a method for the attacking. In here we are going to create an overlap circle around a certain point. We are going to make sure to call this in the event system every time we swing a sword. So without any further ado, let me just show you what we've done in here. So the enemy gets up, he does once damage, twice, 3 times, and you notice that he only damages us when we actually get hit on the head with the sword. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the melee attack. Obviously right now the boss just swings around the gun, the sword. He swings it around, but he doesn't actually do any damage. So we are going to do an actual damage. So I'm going to first of all explain to you how to melee attack. So obviously there are many ways of creating melee attacks, but this is the way that we are going to be implementing it. Sorry for that. And it's the way that we will learn most out of it. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create a circle of damage to the player from a certain position. So every time the player's sword is in this position in the animation, we will create a circle right here, or an overlapping circle, which you will know later on, that will check if the player is inside the radius of this circle, he will get damage. If he's not, if he gets away in time, he will not be damaged. So we'll make sure that we will use something called the physics 2D overlap circle whenever the boss attacks. So remember, physics 2D overlap circle, and let's go ahead and create a couple of variables to do just that. We are going to be handling this attack right here from the script, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we are going to do is create a serialized field, and let's go ahead and make this one private because we already know what it does. So int damage amount, and it's going to be equal to 20 as a default. Then we'll need to create a transform which will represent the point of attack. So point of attack. And why do we have a point of attack? Because if I take you back right here, you'll see that we have a certain middle, and this will be the point of attack around which we will build our circle and check for the player inside of it. So we're going to obviously in just a bit create that game object, but before we do that, we'll obviously also need something called a radius, which is the attack radius. So not to be confused with the attack range. So the attack range is the range at which we will start attacking. The attack radius is the radius in which the player gets damaged if he stays there. And then we are going to create finally a serialized field of type layer mask, and it's going to be called what is player. And why do we call it like that? Well, since I started using Unity, all the forums, YouTube videos, other courses, and generally the Unity community always calls it what is player whenever we want to set some kind of layer. So, and not only the player, sometimes it's called what is ground. So I am used to it. You can call it whatever you want, but this is the general consensus on this. And before we move on, we need a way to actually see that radius. So we're going to use the void onDraw gizmos selected. We've done this already, nothing too fancy in here. So gizmos color red, and let's just close this off, hit enter, and in here we are going to go to the gizmos.draw wire sphere, and it's going to be on the point of attack dot position, and it's going to be the attack radius as the radius. So there we go, the onDraw sphere, as you can see, a center and a radius. We just gave him the point attack position and the attack radius. So back in our game, And do we need to wait for anything to compile? No, that was fast. So I'm going to right click and create an empty game object as a child of the boss, and we'll call it the point of attack. And on the Skelly boss down here, I'm going to add the point of attack. What is the player? It is the player, and the attack radius, I'm just going to go into the scene to see what is going on, and there we go. Obviously, as we always do, this will be up to you. Where do you want to set your animation, or sorry, I was thinking of the animation. Where do you want to set the point of attack, and how big do you want to make it? So I'm going to scroll down and see the attack. So in the attack, there we go. Yep, this is the point where we are going to attack. So exactly on here. And from this point, we will be able to determine how much do we want to move the radius. And notice that because the on-draw gizmos is on the boss controller, that means that we increase in here just a little bit, just make it 2. I think 2 is an appropriate number, but I'm going to go ahead and make it 3, so just for testing purposes. So I'm going to move it a bit on the Skelly, and then if we see another attack in here, so yep, there we go. If the player is standing anywhere inside of this radius, he will get hit. So without any further ado, let's save that and let's go and issue you a challenge, because this time you are going to do the attack. First of all, you'll need to create a method in the boss controller, make it public. Why? Because we need it somewhere else. Then we are going to check for the overlap circle in the Unity docs. This will be your job. You'll need to go see how everything works. You'll need to check if the player is inside the attack radius. If he is, then we will apply damage. Call this method using an event animation. So with that out of the way, remember, let me just show you something. It's called the physics to the overlap circle. And now pause the video and go ahead and do the challenge. Okay, welcome back. So in here, I'm going to go ahead first of all and create a public void, and I'm going to call it the attack player. Great. Now, what are we going to do in here? First of all, we'll need to understand how the physics to the overlap circle works. So let's say I am a clueless game developer. I have no idea how physics to the overlap circle works. So first of all, I just check in here. So the declaration, a public static, no need to worry about the static. We can do it without the static. I scroll down in here, I can see that it's a collider to the overlap circle. We have a point, we have a radius, a layer mask, a min depth, and a max depth. So this is for the z coordinates when we are working in 3D, I presume, or maybe something includes object. Oh, objects that are in the z. So it also checks for the depth. We will not be needing this. If we scroll down, we can see that we can actually also get some kind of results in here, and we can also use contact filters. We've learned about contact filters in one of the videos. We get an array, but let's also scroll down. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need. We can also return lists. So this is what we need, and this returns a collider to the collider overlapping the circle. Checks if a collider falls within the circular area. The circle redefines coordinates, etc., etc. And in here you can go more in depth into the z coordinates. But anyways, this is what we need. Physics to the overlap circle. Back in our game, what do we want to do in here? First of all, we'll need to get the player that we are attacking. So I'm going to create a collider 2D, and it's going to be the player to attack, and I'm going to say that he is equal to the physics to the dot overlap circle, and I'm going to say, what do we have in here? So first of all, we have the point. What's the point? Obviously it's the point of attack dot position. Then we need the radius, so it's the attack radius, and then we need the what is player, because we only want to be hitting the player. Then in here we are going to check if the player to attack player. So okay, so player to attack is different than null. So why do we say that he is different than null? If we look in here, let's save that. Let's first of all print out the player to attack. So save that, and let's go into the game and let's add it to the event system. So where do we want this to be called? If I go into the attack, in here I swing the sword, and just as he swings the sword, I'm going to apply the function. And which function should we apply? The attack player. And then again, when we swing down in here, we're going to add another option, another event, and we are going to attack the player. So save that, run the game, and let's see what we mean by null. So let him attack us. So there we go, Doom player, there we go. If we swing, there we go, we can see that we have a null in here when we were outside. So because the way we are going to continue, because we are going to get the player to attack, dot get component, dot the player health handler, and what was the method in there? I believe it was, damage the player, and the amount of damage, the damage amount that we've created up here. So save that. I hope you understand what we did in here. If we don't have, or we don't check for the player is null, so we are going to access the player health handler, which does not exist, which will cause an error. So we have this extra step of safety. We check if the player to attack is different than null. If it is, then we attack, or actually damage. If he's not, that means he is outside the radius. That means we don't attack him. And I'm going to keep this in here just for testing purposes. So let's save all of that. Let's go back into our game in here, and let's run and see what is going to happen. So the player gets close, he fights, and as you can see, he takes damage every single time. So I'm going to make the Doom's player max health a bit bigger. So max health, let's make it 500 for the testing purposes. Run the game. How cool is that we can change the life every time we want, because we've created the game. So there we go, 20, 20, 20. There we go. You can see that we get hit, we get hit, we get hit every single time we remove or get our lives reduced by 20. And you might be thinking, well, why aren't we getting hit on the swing down? Well, let me show you. So I try to get hit. Wait a second. Get hit. Okay, so that didn't work. Well, because we are a bit invincible in a couple of seconds. So you can see, let me just try to do this. No, it's not working. So let me see if I can remove the invincibility time to 0. That way we won't become invincible. You'll notice that we get hit on the way up and on the way down, on the way up and on the way down. And as you can see, this is why we added a bit of invincibility to our player, because this is not very fun to have, getting damaged every single time. And if we keep getting damaged, eventually the player is going to die, to succumb to his wounds. So you can see right here we have a couple of errors because of the on-state enter. We are trying to find the player, but there is no player. Now, we could either keep this. Obviously, we should not keep this because this is an error. This might cause problems, might cause a couple of lines to not be taken into account. So a better way in here is to just check if he is available and so on and so forth. But let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the core mechanics, the small details we can work around later on. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you are committing your changes every single video. I hope you left me a review because it helps me out a lot. And with that out of the way, in the next video we are going to be taking our boss to the second or to the angry stage.